Imagine you didn't have breakfast this morning. How would that make you feel?
Hello, Sage. This is Cody. Or how? Wait a minute.
Oh, oh yeah, 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 oh yeah, 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 oh, yeah, 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 check it out. Hear the echo in the night sky, with stars and headlights entwine. Tales of diesel and determination, living life beyond the white line.
There's a stretch where silence roars, sirens hum a solemn tune. Every journey writes a saga in the glow of the highway moon.
Sage Outcast Porter, where the big lows, big roads meet.
Talking miles,
talking metal,
every ridge,
every ride,
every week.
Sage Outcast Porter,
From the yard to the last white line.
if it's trucking and bone,
Deep hustle,
get tuned into that state of mind. Keep the fire
burning bright,
while the world
raise the night,
through the miles,
to the time.
we ride on.
In the endless ride. In the endless ride. In the endless
Sage. I'm sorry. Please don't record this.
All right, I am back. It is Tuesday, and we are here for another episode. We don't need no stinking straits. We don't need no stinking straits. We're fine. We don't need it. Listen, we're about to get out of the war, and we're just gonna leave the straits the way they are. Trump said they're fine. It's perfect. It's beautiful. We're gonna cover that a little bit. I have a poll going on in my Discord. Hang on. Do I? Here somewhere. Yeah, I have a poll going on in my Discord. What will the national average be for diesel prices this week? That comes out today. And I'm talking U.S. national average. You know, not after Mudflap or not after your discounts or your... Well, it's not that expensive here. We're going with a national average. I know that kind of confuses some people, the word average. Also, let's see what we had going on. Anything else going on? We got a couple things going on still. I'm trying to get some things straight. I'm a little confused. I'm trying to interpret some of this stuff. And we have a quick announcement from President Trump. I wanted to play this highly insightful, educated information that I believe all of us should now listen. And it's about 2 minutes. Stay with me here and while I get some other stuff set up. And I will leave you with the words of President of the United States of America, the one technically making sure that he keeps world peace. Here he is right now. Listen up.
It's Trump without Trump. You won't have to listen to his voice or see his face. This quote is unedited and 100% accurate. This is from a cabinet meeting on March 26, 2026. These are the words of the President of the United States of America. See this pen right here? This pen is an interesting example. It's the same thing. So this pen is very inexpensive, but it writes well. I like it, but I can't have the pen. The way it was, you know what it is. I don't want to give too much publicity, but they do treat me well. Sharpie. So I came here. They have $1,000 pens, and you know, you hand pens out, and you're signing, and you hand them out, and you're handing them with all these people. Sometimes you have 30, 40 people, and they were $1,000 a piece. Beautiful pen. Ballpoint. 1,000. It was gold, silver, gorgeous. But I'm handing out to kids that don't even know what it is. What is this, Mommy? It's kids. They're getting a pen for $1,000. They have no idea what it is. And I feel guilty because I'm like, by nature, I don't. It's the government. I love the government. Like, I love myself economically. I want to save money. So I'm saying, this is crazy. And it had another problem. They didn't write well. So I take it out and I sign, and there's no ink. And I got all you people looking, and you're saying there must be something wrong with Trump. And I'm signing, and there's no ink in the pen, and it cost $1,000. And that's when I call the guy. I said, I'd like to use your pen, but I can't have a gray thing with a big S on it saying Sharpie as I'm signing a $1 trillion airplane contract to buy brand new fighter jets, brand new B-2 bombers, of what you just ordered plenty. I can't do that with the press, use your pen, but I like the pen the best. But I'll sign it. I could do like Biden did, give it to somebody else to sign, or an auto pen, or maybe sign it separately in another room, but I can't use your pen. He said, well, I could make it nicer. So, what can you do? He said, I'll paint it black. I said, that's nice. And I could even paint the White House on it, sir, if you like, in gold. Almost real gold. Not bad. And I could even do your signature, sir. And by the way, this was not staged. I just saw the pen sitting there. I thought, this is an example of how $25 million spent by me at the Federal Reserve Building would be a better job than $4 billion that they're spending. Donald J. Trump.
That's right. That is right. That it was not Dr. Seuss. That was Donald J. Trump. I want you to know that I'll be playing that at the beginning of every one of my shows because I want you to know. Listen, I hear this a lot, right? I hear this a lot. A lot of people tell me, I voted him because he talks like me. That's kind of scary. And I did hear the little bit of poetry in there, right? Did you hear the poetry? Go back and listen to it yourself and see if you can figure out the poetry. It's a word that rhymes with press. He did a little bit of poetry in there. All right, let's move on. Now that we've got that out of the way, words from our great leader. They are words. It's a bunch of words in a lot of random order, but it's definitely words from our Donald J. Trump. Thank you for attention in this manner. All right. So we've got, let's see what we got going on here. Approval rating, not too shabby, 33%. Oh, wait, oh, darn, that's the wrong way. The Pope, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, either way. Iran set a toll booth. We're going to talk about that. The Houthis, they've joined the war. They're ready to start putting pressure on the Red Sea. Kind of explain how that's could be a little bad. Airlines has run out of fuel. High oil, and UN diplomat claims there's a nuke threat. So what are we looking at for oil prices? Let's see, we're at about 103.3. That's well, it did go down a little bit. It got down $1 or $2. So maybe we're on the right track. Maybe we're doing fine. Well, let's check over the last month. Ooh. What about the last 6 months? Oh yeah, wow, that's gonna leave a mark. So we went from like $60 to about $105 right now for oil prices. Not bad. Drill, baby, drill. That's good. All right, we're going to get this out of there. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right. Let's kind of talk about what's going on here in regards to the straits and logistics. And the problem is I hear a lot of grumblings. I like that term now. There's a lot of grumblings in the distance. But guess what? You guys might have an even better show coming out. I might get an opportunity to win my way back into an opportunity. I can't talk about it yet because I forgot about something. Because even though the host has unblocked me, if the co-host blocked me, I still get blocked, which I didn't think about, but I just thought about that this morning, so I got to figure something out with that one. I'm halfway there. Either way, let's move on. Okay. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. And if you don't know, then obviously I don't know what planet rock you've been living under, but what cult you've been in. You might be in a cult. This right here is the Straits, right? Straits of the old Hormuz there. The old Iran over on this side, Saudi Arabia on this side. Lots of oil, natural gas, and fertilizer come out of here. Now, we've kind of decided that we're going to launch a lot of rockets and stuff over here into Iran. So Iran has basically said, not a problem. We don't fight war by throwing rockets back at you all the way from here. We fight wars by stopping the flow of oil, which affects the United States, which affects the economy, which affects global shipping and things like that. And we also are going to lob rockets at infrastructure that is going to hurt future oil, right? If we start taking out refineries and they start damaging things like that, that also puts a strain on energy, right? Remember, energy bills were going to be halved. Anybody remember when the administration told us that energy bills as of 1 year, from January 20th of 2025, our energy bills would be half. Mine are not half. I don't know about you guys. Maybe it's just me, because maybe I voted wrong or something, and maybe he was able to pick out energy bills of the Democrats versus the Republicans. But I'm going to say that mine are not half. Now, actually, they've gone up, and they're probably going to go up even more because I heat my water, my electricity's, I think, on hydro. I heat my water with propane. I've got a tankless water heater, which at the time, thank God and then of course I've got wood pellets and firewood, which is good because, bro, if you guys that do heating oil, if that doesn't go back down by the time heating oil, good luck. Good luck. Anyways, okay. So for some odd reason, there's an island over here. Well, not for some reason. I know why this island's here. So this right here is the island there that everybody's talking about, right? Everybody's talking about in Iran that they're like, we need to take this island right here, and if we take this island, Iran's done. Now, we just need to put 50,000 Marines on this island right here in this fishbowl, which is within the range of rockets from Iran. You know, that's within the range of rockets. And we need to take this island because if we take the oil off of this island, Iran is, you know, they won't know what to do. And this is where all the oil comes from Iran. And this is, you know, once we take this, we're good to go. Now, I have heard people say this in spaces and things like that, that's going to stop the price of oil is going to go down and all this other stuff. So one of the things I want you to realize is putting troops here is a bad idea. I know, you're no military leader, I get it. But I've listened to a lot of military people at this point, and they're all saying the same thing. If we put troops here, I know this is going to sound weird, but this here is within range of attacks from Iran, and it's an island. So once we start to put the troops here, I don't think the administration has thought this through, because we currently have pulled out all of our ships from the Persian Gulf, and we're going to listen to Sal. He's going to kind of explain this. I'm thinking it's a bad idea to bring in troops and plopping them on an island so close to Iran that they can just kind of launch some rockets into a fishbowl, and that ain't going to be good for our troops. I'm thinking I'm hoping some general is basically telling the administration that's a bad idea. But we will find out. So, here's the other problem. Because we're threatening to go after Iran and take out now their infrastructure, we're looking to commit war crimes. So Donald Trump is admitting that he will now commit war crimes. He will blow up water treatment plants. He will blow up civilian power structures. He will blow up civilian things in Iran. Okay? That would be a war crime. I know. It's confusing. Since when do we ever do war crimes? I don't know. Blowing up people, shipwreck boats, that's one. Also, launching an infrastructure. I know people are going to argue, well, no, it doesn't matter. We're at war. Well, I get it. But there's rules to war. Well, since that is now happening, over here, you got right here, you see all these little red dots. These are oil tankers. These are a lot of oil tankers right here, right? There's about 3,000 in here, oil tankers and ships in here, kind of running out of food, running out of water. Now, they can produce water, but for them to be able to produce water, they got to have the engines going, and a bunch of stuff has to be going, generators, things like that. So, the water's not the best. So if you could, these guys would rather not be drinking seawater if they could get fresh water, things like that. But we still have 5 ships in here that are stuck in here. Now, I have a question for you guys. maybe you guys can explain this to me. If you were a part of the administration, right, would you leave 5 U.S. ships stranded in the Persian Gulf while you bombed Iran? Or would you kind of escort those ships out? Take your time on this one. Take your time. Okay? Would you leave our U.S. ships stranded in the Persian Gulf, or would you escort them out if you were the president of the United States of America? Because ours is not escorting them out. And that's a little upsetting to me, to be completely honest. I don't agree with, all this other crap, but it's a little upsetting that we're leaving 5 of our ships stranded, behind in the Persian Gulf. But let's move on. All right, we already know that this has become a toll booth. So right here, and they're going to show you where the ships are. The normal path through here is right through this middle section right here. You get too close and it's too shallow, and some of these ships are really big, so they have a deep draft. So they kind of run the middle. Well, Iran has created a toll booth, and they are now charging a lot of money. They say somewhere around $2 million approximately for a ship to pass through. So the new toll booth road is you basically drive, you sail this way, you come around this island right here, and then you go back out. And then if you're coming from the other way, you come in this way, you go through the toll booth, and then you leave. Now, here's the predicament with this. All right? And I want to be honest with you. I have a tinfoil hat story I might jump into, but I'm going to leave that until a little bit later in the show. Because although it's tinfoil hat type stuff, I think I can back it up. Which I'll get to that. I might even put that, because I want to separate that into another video, because it could be a little Anyways. Now, we all know about the petrodollar. And, well, the petrodollar, or oil, is sold in U.S., mostly sold in U.S. dollars. Not always, but mostly sold in U.S. dollars. And that's because everybody kind of takes the U.S. dollar. But what if Iran would obviously not be taking U.S. dollars? What if, for you to pay the toll to get your oil through, you had to pay $2 million in Chinese dollars? Or, I don't know, European dollars? Or some other dollar bill? Some other dollar bill that now the U.S. dollar, because of the straits here, have been kind of given over to Iran. They can kind of control the flow of what's going in and out of here. And for you to be able to get your oil out, you have to pay in something other than U.S. dollars. Would that put a hampering on U.S. dollars? Probably, right? I'd put a little bit of a hampering on U.S. dollars. All right. Here's the other predicament. Now that the Houthis have decided that, hey, we're in, we can lob rockets. Would you like us to start lobbing rockets? Well, let me show you where they lob rockets. They like to lob, well, obviously over here, or maybe in C too, but they like to lob rockets over here on this side. This is where they lob rockets. Matter of fact, this is where they were lobbing rockets. Not that maybe a year ago. Remember when the Houthis were over there lobbing rockets? And we had to send in another Operation something Shield or whatever. I can't remember what it was. We had to go protect some of this, and China had to protect, and everybody was kind of sending their ships to protect. Well, the Houthis were lobbing rockets on this side. So how bad do you think your fuel costs would get, drivers and homeowners and people who drive cars, if both this side and this side over here, this side and this side, we're kind of having rockets lobbed at them. Like ships were being attacked and rockets were being lobbed at them. Well, that would be bad, because then you'd have to be, only way you could send your ship in would be to go through the, right here, the Suez Canal, which is obviously not big enough to get all these ships through. That would slow down the flow of oil. Now, it's not just about stopping the flow of oil. It's about slowing it down. If they can slow it down, that also raises the price, and so on and so on and so on and so on and so on. Now, couple things here. Let me bring over bring over this before we move into some of the videos. That was our little speech here. Right. Donald Trump. This was Donald Trump taking a few questions. Donald, what would you like us to talk about?
Thank everybody very much.
Yeah.
And I'm asked to take a few questions. And unlike other politicians,
Yeah.
they would like the questions screened. I don't ask for screening of the questions.
Good.
You can ask me anything you want. You can talk sex. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm here for you. Thank everybody very much. And
Okay.
I'm asked to take a few
I don't know if
questions.
anybody would like to talk to a 70-year-old man, President of the United States of America, about sex. But yeah, he said that out loud. He actually said that. That wasn't AI. But that's okay. That's okay, because we're going to go with this real quick here. What?
Missing right now? What is missing in leadership?
Well, it's winning. You got to win. You know, I've watched a lot of people, leaders, great leaders. And,
Really?
you know, the one thing about sports is you break it down into, you know, a 2-hour period, something nice. You don't have to wait a lifetime to find out is somebody a winner or a loser. You got a lot of losers, mostly losers, fortunately. It's a good thing to have a lot of losers. I always like to hang around with losers, actually, because it makes me feel better. I hate guys that are very, very successful and you have to listen to their success stories. I like people that like to listen to my success.
So, all of you in the administration, if you want to know why you guys are around, you are the losers that he likes to surround himself with. If there's never a more honest statement out of a politician in their life, is that Donald Trump has surrounded himself with losers, and he's admitted it. I don't think there's many people that can say that that's a lie from a politician. Have you seen Whiskey Pete? All right, let's move on. You can't make this stuff up. Okay. All right. Oh, what is this one here? Hang on.
You have to see it. It's very cool.
Very cool.
Missiles launched, missiles launched, missiles launching. They're launching. Okay, we're ready. 101 missiles coming at them. All right, we have to have like 11 seconds to make a determination. Then at 7 seconds, fire, fire, fire. It's the most unbelievable thing. Fire, boom, fire, boom. One at a time, just knocked them out like they were nothing. Genius. It's like unbelievable.
That's great. That's great. I swear to God. Tell me, I think I've had the same conversation. I think I've heard, like growing up, I probably had that same conversation playing with like little G.I. Joe action figures and things like that. But hey, it is what it is. All right, hang on. So now it says, okay, there was the one that basically, oh, did you guys hear this? I know this is going to start, I know it's a little bit off topic. But did you guys just see that breaking news that the bullet used to unalive Charlie Kirk did not match the rifle allegedly used by the suspect, Taylor Robinson? New courtroom filing. The bullet that unalived Charlie Kirk, I want to say this one more time out loud because, you know, there's some things going on here. But the bullet fired by remember, he was the left-leaning libtard something or other. But the bullet fired by him, allegedly fired by him, does not match the rifle that the suspect supposedly used. Can anybody explain that to me? Anybody want to? Just thought that came out this morning when I was doing some show prep. I almost couldn't stop myself. I had to put that in the show. Somebody want to explain why the bullet doesn't match the rifle? And we're just finding out about this now. Weird. Kind of weird. Maybe we can have Erica Kirk see if she can give us some insight into this from behind some type of firework display. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe some fireworks and some music and a band and catering and, oil can be provided by, we won't mention his name, any type of oils and stuff. And maybe she can give us some insight in regards to why the bullet didn't match. It's kind of weird. Throw that out there. All right. Okay, here's the other part, too, and then we'll go into videos. Trump open to ending the war without reopening the straits. Swear to God. He's decided that he doesn't have to open the straits. Now remember, global logistical type problem going on right now. Shortages. Australia's kind of hurting. We're going to talk about that. Fertilizer, we're kind of hurting. We're going to talk about that. And I know. Oh, I should turn the phones on. Hang on. Let me turn my phones on. I know. Maybe I can turn my phones on. Does anybody see what I do with my phones? Oh, there it is. Yeah, let me turn my phone on. Okay, the phones are on.
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast.
All right.
I'm the only president that ever took a cognitive test. I took it 3 times.
3 times. He took it. The only president already taken a cognitive test 3 times. Either way. Yeah, so now President Trump is willing to end the Iran war without reopening the straits, prioritizing a quick military win over restoring global shipping. Yeah, that's not going to be good. I don't know if that's going to be a good idea. All right, let me see here. Oh, here was the war crime one.
The president posted this morning about, his threat that on leaving Iran, he said we might blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, Harg Island, and possibly all desalinization plants. Under international law, striking civilian infrastructure like that is generally prohibited. Why is the president threatening what would amount to potentially a war crime with the U.S. military? And how do you square that with the administration repeatedly saying that the U.S. does not target civilians?
Look, the president has made it quite clear to the Iranian regime at this moment in time, as evidenced by the statement that you just read, that their best move is to make a deal, or else the United States Armed Forces has capabilities beyond their wildest imagination, and the president is not afraid to use them. That's not what I said, Garrett. And you're
Well, that's exactly what you said.
saying the word potential for a reason, because I'm sure some experts are telling you that in your ear to try to ask me that question. Of course, this administration and the United States Armed Forces will always act within the confines of the law. But with respect to achieving the full objectives of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump is going to move forward unabated, and he expects the Iranian regime to make a deal with the administration.
To that end, which of those objectives?
Next question. Listen, he's not going to do war crimes. He said he was going to do war crimes. Yeah, but next question. All right, let me go over and see. Is this one? Yeah. Yep. Okay, just wanted to let this in on a little secret, just so everybody knows, too. Just so you guys know what's going on. Because I also hear that, well, we don't need any oil. We don't need any oil from the Straits. We have our own oil. We're good to go. And we don't need any oil from the Straits. Perfect. Got it. Question is, first question I would like to ask those people, if you don't think that we don't need any oil, is, do you understand supply and demand? That would be my first question. Because if the supply is limited and there's still high demand, prices go up. I'm going to try to make sure you guys all understand this. We don't need any, when people say, first of all, oil is traded as a global commodity. So as the price of oil goes up globally, why, if I'm selling oil in the United States and people want my oil, why would I sell it for any cheaper than what people are demanding it to be sold for? So supply and demand basically, again, say that if I have an opportunity to sell my oil for a lot of money, why would I not sell it for a lot of money? Like, that's capitalism, right? That's what America's all about. America. Capitalism. Got it? So if other countries are now short oil and they can't get oil, and we can export them our oil, why would we not export our oil to those? Why would oil companies, because oil's not nationalized, why would oil companies not just sell the other countries the oil for what they want to pay for it? Right? I mean, why would I sell it any cheaper here? If I can sell it for $100 a barrel to that country, why would I sell it to you for $50 a barrel here? Why would I do that? Weird, right? Well, the president's going to make them sell it cheaper here. Really? Let's see what he says about that. All those countries who can't get jet fuel because the Strait of Hormuz like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved in the, that's another thing too, into the decapitulation of Iran, I have suggestions for you. Number one, buy from the U.S. So, right now, he is putting the American people in a bidding war with other countries to buy our fuel, to buy our oil. He's basically saying, look, you can buy from us, which, if, like I said, if Europe is willing to pay $110 a barrel, you better be ready to pay $110 a barrel, right? Because he's telling other countries to buy from us. Okay. Next one. 2, build up some delay courage and go to the strait and just take it. So basically, go to the straits. Now remember, the United States started this war, and I know, I've heard this before. NATO is not an offensive pact. It's a defensive pact. So in regards to NATO, you can't attack somebody and then call in NATO to help you. That's not how NATO works. NATO is designed, and that's good, to be honest. And Israel is not a part of NATO. I recently just heard somebody say this. Israel is not a part of NATO. I don't know what you're telling. Anyway. So just go and take it. Just go and take the straits. Now, the problem with that is you can't just take the straits. It's very, very, very difficult, and Iran knows this. Because the only way to take the straits would be putting boots on the ground. And if you put boots on the ground in Iran, well, the terrorists are going to attack the other choke points, which is going to cause oil to go up even further. You see what I'm saying there? It's a very difficult process. So buckle up, boys. If you're in trucking, you better do whatever you can to get the best fuel mileage for your truck. And, cheap commercial right here because I got to pay the bills. If you're looking for cheaper insurance or you're looking for a better insurance agent to help you get the best rate you possibly can, go ahead to oversizeinsurance.com and book an appointment with me. I'll hook you up like a tow truck. I'm actually working with a couple people now that we found them some better insurance. We found them some cheaper rates. I'm not exactly sure why. Well, I know one person why they were so expensive. But it seems like some of the other agents are not finding the best rates they can or giving them the best information they can to get them better safety scores, which then lowers your insurance rates. Because I can talk to an underwriter on your behalf. Like, I will legitimately talk to the underwriters for you and try to make sure you get the best rates. But that's just something else. Okay. Or 3. Was there a 3? Was there a 3? No, just 1 or 2 and go and take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourselves. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like you weren't there for the U.S. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil, President Donald Trump. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Well, let's see what this is about. Let's see if this is true. Hello, Sal. Let's listen to Sal.
Watching, but we're also going to deal with the situation.
Oh, hang on. Let me slow it down because I'm thinking it's 2-speed. Well, let's try 1.5. Oh, the phones are open, too. Phones are open.
His number, 856-600-4654, Sage Outcast.
And yeah, if you have any logistical questions, trucking questions, anything like that, or geopolitical stuff right now, if I don't know, we'll figure it out. We'll find the answer for you because it's chaos.
In and around the Strait of Hormuz with an update. A lot of information out there, and I am questioning quite a bit of it, in particular the president's statements about tankers sailing out, 8 to 10, and now 20 tankers coming out. I have not seen the numbers to support those statements so far, but we're going to break it down for you. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. All right, here's the Joint Maritime Information Center. For those of you who don't know, JITMIC is part of the Combined Maritime Force. This is a international force put together to monitor shipping in the area under the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Naval Central Command. So the Joint Maritime Information Center put this out for 29 March. Situation remains critical in the Arabian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, and the Gulf of Oman. It also remains at a moderate level.
Oh, hang on. Almost forgot real quick. Now that I think Truck Diver's here. Before I go over this, we're going to go over market conditions real fast. Okay. I know. I almost forgot. All right. Overall market, and this is just so you know, the overall market. basically, and this is why I want to talk about this too real quick before we do the videos, because I'm at 8:30. All right, overall market, freight market, is just past neutral. It's not too hard to find a truck, not too easy to find a truck. Van market, definitely the bottom, the easier to find a truck. Reefer, refrigerated goods, starting to creep up a little bit. Flatbed. I want to talk about this one right here, okay? So if you're just joining, pay attention. This is my tinfoil hat session of the show, and this is what I'm thinking. Right now, flatbed is very tight. I mean, like, we have a driver shortage. Anybody wants to argue with me with that, you're welcome to call into the show. 100% will take your call on this. We have a driver shortage, okay? I can back it up now, 100%. Right now, flatbeds are hard to get. War, we're finding out, is good for flatbeds. Raw materials, possibly building anything from weapons to data centers and all this other stuff. Here's my thought process with this, real quick. I'm going to do a speed version because I'll do a separate video, and I'll just put it out as a... subscribe to the channel, hit the like, subscribe to the channel, guys, do stuff like that because I'll put it out just as a video. Is it possible that all of this chaos, all of these things that are happening, because I look back and I'm thinking to myself, how can we possibly allow half the stuff to happen that is happening, okay? How is this possible? I mean, there's no way we would go in and put tariffs on and raise which we all know that we pay the cost of the tariffs, and nobody's basically stopping that. Now we have to pay those fees back to the businesses that we took the money from. Manufacturing has contracted for the past 12 months. Unemployment is creeping up. We laid off a bunch of people. The national debt is still climbing. We're going to talk about that. It's still climbing when it was supposed to be going down, allegedly. Remember when Doge came in? It's still going up. We are now spending more money on this war that the national debt's going to go up even more and faster. We invaded Venezuela and Iran to get basically nothing, but because nothing's changed. We've basically, I mean, we got Maduro or whatever his name is. We did get him. I get that, which is good. But we just put his we put his VP there, and there's no difference there. I never got my Doge check. Me neither. We basically said that Doge was a failure. And now we invaded Iran just thinking we could just bomb them to submission. And they basically started to raise energy costs and cause major shipping problems on energy, fertilizer, all kinds of situation that we're now paying, gas prices, $100, over $100 a barrel for oil when it was 60. And I'm just thinking that just so we can make Iran great again, we're all paying money at the pumps. I just think to myself, is it possible? And I'm seeing nothing. If you want to be honest, when it comes to the freight market, I am not seeing much when it comes to consumer spending. Credit card debt's an all-time high. People don't have money, to buy things. So most of the stuff that I'm seeing in regards to freight volume is in the open deck, which is flatbed, step deck, double drop. And most of all of that is data centers. Okay? Data centers, AI generation, all that type of stuff is just booming right now. Like nonstop booming right now. Okay? We deported a bunch of immigrants just to ask those immigrants to come back and help pick our crops. But anyways, let's go back to the data centers. So you cause all this chaos and turmoil in regards to everything that's going on with fake information, disinformation. Is it possible that the outcome for all of this, why would you need so many data centers? I thought to myself, okay, well, who's benefiting from this? Like, what is the benefit? Well, the rich are getting richer. I get that. But in regards to gas prices skyrocketing, oil prices skyrocketing, tariffs raising, the inflation going up, unemployment going up, and all this other stuff, who would benefit from that, right? Fertilizer, things like that. Well, the people that would benefit from that would be the people that we're now putting in AI. Because if you don't have enough people to work and you deport everybody, that incentivizes AI and automation, right? Because they're not just going to hire a bunch of Americans. I mean, they're going to basically say, hey, we might as well, if we're going to build new manufacturing, we're going to build new manufacturing that's mostly AI and automation. Okay, well, that's weird. Then we're building a bunch of automation and AI. Well, why would we need all of this AI? Why do we need all this data centers? What is the race for? Well, we know why China does it. China uses a lot of AI to control their people, right? They have cameras everywhere. They have, social credit scores. They control their money. That's why they need all this AI. They need to be, top of the top. That's what they want. But we allegedly have freedom. But what if the tinfoil hat sage came out and said, what if we're doing this to bring in a central bank digital currency? You would need a lot of AI. I mean, a lot of AI. Now, we have Pelotar. We have all this, so there's evidence of this being done right now. We also have, the big, beautiful bill made it where states cannot do anything against AI for 10 years. So you're seeing a lot of this type of stuff actually, being called out already, right? Data centers. What if they move to a central bank digital currency, and the best way to get everybody to do the central bank digital currency is because inflation is run out of control, and oil prices is out of control, unemployment's out of control, people are out of control, and we're just going to have to bring in central bank digital currency and a lot more of this the techno bros basically controlling everything. What if that was the case? And I'm going to kind of break this down a little bit in the video. I'm just kind of giving the gist of it. But I just see a lot of and the reason I bring this up is most of the freight volumes I am seeing is data centers. I'm not seeing a lot of anything else. A lot of data center technology being put in there, okay? So I'm just thinking that even though they say no central bank digital currency, here's the other thing. What do you think would happen if people found out, because I'm already starting to see it now, okay? I've had two people, and it's probably more than that. I have people that are now coming out and saying, Trump tricked me, and I'm never going to vote again. I talked to somebody yesterday, one of my carriers, that said the same thing. Because before they voted for Trump and they were big Trump supporters, I told them, don't do it. It's not going to help us in the trucking industry, and it didn't. And now I spoke to them yesterday, and they said I was right, and they're never going to vote again. They're never going to vote again. They don't care anymore. And I've had other people say the same thing. So what if the plan is to get most of people just not to vote again, and then you can have a lot of the tech bros come in with a lot of the stuff that we don't want? What do you think the fall would be? What do you think the fall would be if everybody in year 3 or year 4 found out that the Trump thing was just a hoax, that he didn't do anything he said he was going to do? They never planned on doing that. How far do you think some of the MAGA people would fall if they found out that if it wasn't real? He didn't accomplish anything he said he was going to accomplish, even though they voted him in and they stood by him, buying the merch and everything else. What do you think those people would do if they found that out? You know what I'm saying? If they found out that their God didn't exist, what do you think they would do? I think, in my opinion, and it's going to sound weird, just something to think about, I think they would just say, screw it, I'm just not voting no more. I don't care anymore. I don't care about politics. I don't care about it anymore. And I know a lot of people, some people are going to think, I'd never do that. But a lot of people would. I am hearing it now from people that I never thought. Well, one I do. But somebody that I never thought would say that is already saying that now. I'm done. Gas prices, I can't afford to pay for my fuel. Half the stuff that he did with the tariffs hurt us. I told him. And they're basically saying I'm done. So anyways, just thought I'd put it out there. Just put it out there. All right, let's go to spot rates. Flatbed, 305 a mile. It's jumped from 272 to 305 a mile national spot rate average. That's for open deck flatbed. Telling you, AI data centers. Vans is 250, jumped up 9 cents. Reefer is 294, jumped up 6 cents for refrigeration. Right here, you can see that the volume index is bumped up a little bit right there. See this little circle there? Let me see if I can zoom in on here. Hang on. Right there, it's bumped up. These are your years before. These are always holidays. These big dips are holidays. So like right here, you're going to have Easter coming up. This is like a week behind. You're going to have Easter drop. Well, these are normally your holidays. Right here. Anyways, big spike right here, mostly led by open deck. What is this one? Fuel, right? Oh, tender rejections. These are people falling off loads. I literally had somebody. This is how bad it is. This is how I know there's actually a driver shortage. Okay? Reached out to one of my flatbed carriers, and I'm like, hey, I need a quote. Going for next week, going from here to there. Okay? Legal load, no tarp, normal stuff. They're like, how tall is the load? I'm like, just quote it for legal. Just quote it for legal. Well, it matters because of fuel costs. I'm like, pretend it's 8 foot tall. It's only going to be 3 feet tall, but pretend it's 8 foot tall. Who cares? Just give me a price for a legal load. And they say, I'll pass. Well, no. First, they send me a load to the pictures of the fuel price in California of $7 a barrel, $7 a gallon. And I'm like, yeah, well, this isn't going there. This is going the other way. It's going towards Georgia. It's going that way. So just give me a price for this one. And they said, I'll pass. And I'm like, what do you mean you'll pass? What are you talking about? You give me the price. I'm not giving you the price. Like, we are at a point right now where he didn't even want to give me a price. I'm like, well, what's the problem? He's like, well, I can't get it Monday. I'm like, well, then just give me when you can get there and tell me the price. But he's ready to pass on the load completely. He was ready to just pass on the load completely. So it's not price. It wasn't how much the load paid that made him want to pass, because he gets to determine how much the load pays. If he would have said $5 a mile, I'm like, all right, I'll call you back. Okay? It was basically like he's covering his own customer freight, and we don't have enough. He doesn't have time to get there. So we are literally having a shortage of trucks. We don't have enough trucks to cover the freight that we have moving for any price. That would be a driver shortage. Now, do we have a CDL holder shortage? No. I got a CDL. I'm not driving, but I've got a CDL. I got a Class A. I could go back to driving. I don't want to go back to driving. So we do have a driver shortage. We don't have a CDL holder shortage. And it's important. People are like, well, that's semantics. No, it's not. Because you solve those two different ways. If you don't have enough CDL drivers, you got to get more people with CDLs. If you have enough CDLs, but not enough of them are driving, well, then you got to make other concessions because they already have the CDLs. So you either got to pay more money, you got to offer more home time, you got to offer different things to get drivers to drive the trucks. All right, let's move on. All right, we're looking at, what is this? Van? This is van, right? Yeah, van pricing from around the country. So basically up here in Maine, 325, average is 325. California, because there's a lot of people that stay in California. So 209 a mile, because there's a lot of trucks stuck in California, probably because they can't leave California because they don't speak English. But let's move on. Let's see. This is good. This is finally good. This is finally good, in my opinion. Spot loads have gone over the 5-year average. Like for a while, they were just following the 5-year average. Now they are over the 5-year average for spot loads. The amount of loads that are on the market is now more than the 5-year average. Because technically the 5-year average, you got COVID mixed in there. So that wasn't, I didn't want to see the 5-year average. I wanted to break the 5-year average because that tells me we're seeing more freight. Now, most of that freight is open deck, which is good because I'm in open deck. But just telling you, just letting you know. Let's see here. Fuel prices. Again, you guys can go ahead and do me a favor, put it in the chat, play the game with the Discord. What do you think the national average is going to be for diesel prices? All right. Last week it was $5.37. $5.37 a gallon was the U.S. national average for diesel prices, not gas. I don't care if you live in one of the lower states. I don't care if you live in California. I'm taking the national U.S. average. So it jumped 30 cents from the week before. How much do you think the national average for diesel prices will be this week? Should be coming out soon. It's normally like around 10 o'clock Eastern time. But go ahead and put that in the chat, if you would, for me. Got $6 already. And it hasn't come out yet. But we're seeing right there, we're seeing the fuel prices jump up. Let's see what we got going on here. Anything good in the headlines? Tender rejections. All right, we talked about that. Indiana Transportation, C.H. Robinson. Freight brokerages are reporting that dry van load rates are expected to run 12% higher than last year. So they're expecting some higher rates in, let me think about that for a second. Dry van, 12% higher is not going to cover the cost of fuel. So I'm wondering if they're expecting, if that's base pay. I'll have to read that article. All right. That being said, that is going to be what you're looking at for some freight rates. Fuel is, so let's do it. Let's go back to Sal.
For the Bab el-Mandab, cheers, and the Gulf of Aden. That has to do with the potential of the Houthi emerging into this fight. As of 29 March, since 1 March, 21 vessels have been hit. There have been 0 attacks over the past 72 hours. And whereas the average is 138 ships through the Strait of Hormuz, we have broken into double digits, but just barely, with 11 vessels through as of the past 24 hours. So here's the data for the past week. So total of 4 transits on 26 March going through 2 freighters and 2 tankers, 11 transits on 27 March, 9 freighters and 2 tankers, and then another 11 ships on the 28th of March, 9 freighters and 2 tankers. The big increase for those numbers has to do with eastbound passages out of the Strait of Hormuz, with 6 on 27 March and 8 on 28 March. So I just want to raise the issue here of the tankers. So we're talking about 8 to 10 tankers. Again, not seeing the numbers for that. Talking about 20 tankers coming out now. He said that on board Air Force One yesterday.
Okay, now, this is what Trump said. And then the administration came out and said that there was 20 more tankers. That would be a total of 30 tankers. 20 plus 10 is 30. Even if you use Common Core math, you come up with the same number. We're just not seeing it.
What I haven't heard, and what I would really like to hear a lot, is what are we doing to get the 5 U.S. ships in the Persian Gulf out? Because there doesn't seem to be any urgency in this. I've got to note that I've seen images now with every U.S. Navy ship and Coast Guard ship that was in the Persian Gulf are out now. We just saw an image of the 6 Coast Guard cutters that were based in Bahrain. They're in Singapore.
Okay, so all of the ships are leaving the Persian Gulf. We have 5 U.S. tankers, ships, in the Persian Gulf. They're running out of food. Okay? Now, I'm not fucking around here, and I usually don't swear. They are running out of food because they're not going to let them in ports to replenish the food supplies because they don't want, the port doesn't want to strike or any type of problem when that U.S. ship comes to port over there. Our Navy and our Coast Guard, and I'm ex-Coast Guard, did not escort our 5 ships out. Look, do I think we should be opening up the straits? 100%. It is what it is. And I think everybody here would agree with that. Does everybody here agree with the fact that, hey, maybe the other countries should go there and pull their own ships out? Okay, I'll give you that. But why are we not escorting our own ships out? How is that in any way, shape, or form acceptable to anyone here, even if you hate my guts? Please tell me that at least you agree with me that we should be escorting our ships out of the straits of the Persian Gulf. If our Navy left and our Coast Guard left,
everything out, as far as I know, is out of the Persian Gulf. That's a U.S. Navy or U.S. Coast Guard. What's not out is 5 U.S. flagged commercial ships that should have been warned and told to get their asses out of the Persian Gulf. We got everything else out. Why didn't we tell those? And before you tell me, well, security, Sal, you couldn't tell them. You may have given away things to the Iranians. I think the Iranians saw Navy and Coast Guard boats looking out of the Persian Gulf, caught those. I don't think the commercial ships are going to really alert them too much. Big problem with that. There's over 100 American mariners stuck on those ships right now, and they are threatened by these attacks. All right, the other thing I want to raise to you is how you can track information in this. Yes, watch what's going on with shipping, subscribe and like to the channel, but there are other ways to do it. I'll give you two other ones. So you have the JITMIC report, and I have the link down in the show notes. You can get those advisories when they're released. But here are two other ones I found very useful so far. This one from BCA Research. They're doing an Iran conflict daily dashboard. Really, really helpful here. They're looking at the conflict. So you can scroll through here and see different levels here on attacks, for example, including attacks on vessels, air travel, just a lot of good information here. They have one here on energy flows, what's happening with Middle East production, for example, tanker transits. Again, some great data here. Also a section on commodities and another one here on macros. The third one I would add to this is over at Windward AI. Windward has this dashboard that is now set up. Really, really good tool here, showing you key metrics, talking about, for example, 647 vessels in the Gulf. Yes, I've mentioned before 3,200 vessels, but that includes tugs and smaller boats in the area. What they're talking about is 647 large-scale cargo ships and tankers. They've got a daily intelligence summary. They have vessel movement here, tracking with vessels inbound and outbound. They talk about the...
And the reason I bring this up is there are people that, well, they don't come to my Discord, but they're friends with people in the Discord, that basically are thinking that 30 ships have left the Straits. Now remember, normally it's 150 a day, 140 a day, 130 a day area, depending on ships. 30 ships have not left.
Fleet composition by both types and flag of registry, for example. So, for example, over nearly 200 Marshall Island flag vessels in there, Greek, China, Singapore, Liberia. You'll see all those vessels. By the way, there are not 20 Pakistani vessels even in that region, other than what the president was talking about.
Remember, the president said they're all Pakistani. There's not even...
The other day. Analytics on Hormuz crossings. And then some geopolitical application here with vessels in the Gulf. They've got some remote sensing intelligence. For example, 5 ships right now loading up at Karg Island, 3 VLCCs, 1 Suezmax, 1 Aframax. That's about 7.7 million barrels. Right now, they talk about the Red Sea with the Yanbu. They talk about the Iranian oil on the water. Their floating storage currently is estimated at 174 million barrels, and Russian oil on the water, that's almost 237 million barrels. And then a list of vessels that have been attacked. You can scroll through here and find all the vessels. All right, we're going to work a little dual screen magic here, give you the Strait of Hormuz over the last 2 days. We're going to go back to 29 March.
All right, this is the last 2 days.
Right at midnight.
Remember, we were just told 20 ships left.
UTC, and go ahead and run this, and we'll show you the passages through the area. We're going to go ahead and speed this up. So first vessel coming through here is the Twaina. She is a crude oil tanker built back in 2003, flagged in Curacao, about 106,000 tons outbound. You'll see she shows a Chinese owner and crew, and she's heading right here for the toll booth between Larak and Kisham Island right there. Then we have the Shizheng Da. That vessel we saw.
This is the toll booth. So normally they would cut it in between these two islands right here. But now they're going up and around here so that the Iranians can take a look at the ship and make sure that they get their money before they let them go by.
Come inbound at the very beginning of the conflict. This is a Panamanian flag vessel. It's a breakbulk carrier. She went up, we believe, up to Qasr in Iraq. She is 21 years old, 53,000 tons. She disappears, shows up later outbound in the area. And then we have the LB Energy also coming inbound through the toll booth. Again, the Ayatollah booth for everybody who missed my joke yesterday. She's clearing in, so she's a bulk carrier.
I know. Trump has said that he's going after Cuba next.
15 years old, Panamanian flag, 71,000 tons. She's heading up to the very...
I mean, if you think about it, if you wanted to put a whole bunch of countries on digital currency, central bank digital currency, this is exactly what you would do. Exactly what you would do. You start going in and invading countries, and then everybody's got to go on central bank digital currency. I'm just telling you.
Northern Iranian port of Bandar Imam Khomeini. Then we see an outbound vessel, the Saturn here, Togo flagged, a deck cargo ship, 5 years old, fairly small, just 4,700 tons, heading out to Sirak. I'm not sure where that is, probably in the UAE. And then the inbound here is the Yuri. So the Yuri crude oil tanker, 24 years old, flagged in Curacao, 319,000 tons. She's heading inbound, holding right here. Go ahead, we'll throw speeds on them too here so you can see her speed. She seems to be holding just outside the toll booth at this point. So vessel heading up here, the Mac Hope. So we're searching for them by their IMO numbers. Names change and registries change, but IMO numbers stay the same. So Panamanian bulk carrier, 21 years old, 55,000 tons. So she's coming out of the UAE. Here come the two COSCO container ships, the CSCL Indian Ocean and CSCL Arctic Ocean. These were the ships that were turned around the other day that we had discussed. These are big container ships coming out. Hong Kong registered for the Indian Ocean, 11 years old, 18,982 TEU. Those are 20-foot equivalent units. You'll see they stop tracking right there. They turn off their AIS before they go through Larak and Kisham Island and then appear on the other side. So Arctic Ocean, also 11 years old, same size, same characteristics. It looks like they're sailing here east. They're not. This is where their track turns off, and then they start actively tracking again. Come over here to the Vina. So she's an inbound tanker coming in, kind of on the small side here. LPG carrier, 28 years old, flagged in Botswana, 20,000 cubic meters. And then we get a convoy of ships coming in here. So we see it led by the Mercury, again, a cargo ship. That's a Panamanian flag vessel, 32 years old, 21,000 tons, coming in from India. And then the Rata, she is also heading in, Panamanian flag vessel. She is an oil chemical tanker, 26 years old, 43,000. Notice she's coming from China and showing Chinese officer and crew. They like to do that so that you know where they are. The Marivex turned around here, so that vessel is not coming through. Yuri's still sitting up here, and now here comes some other vessels. Here is the Kush coming up. So let's go to a live view here of marine traffic, and you'll see the ships that are in the strait right now. So that was the imagery over the past 2 days coming into the Strait of Hormuz. And again, what we haven't seen are those 8 to 10 tankers that the president talked about at the cabinet meeting. And we certainly didn't see 20 tankers coming out. And yes, they could turn their AIS off, but they would show up in the Gulf of Oman and we would see them pop out there. So,
okay, so what they're basically saying is, oh, wrong side of the planet. Let me go over here. Right now, basically, they'd say, well, they could turn off their tracking and you wouldn't see them come through. But the problem is then they would turn their tracking on once they got over here. They would turn their tracking back on to show that they made it out. Yeah, we made it out. And they turn their tracking back on. And then they would leave their tracking on out here. Because remember, Iran doesn't have a navy anymore, allegedly. So why wouldn't they turn their... If they did go through there without their tracking, why wouldn't they turn... Why don't we see 30 ships go from here?
He clearly has a case of TDS.
He clearly has a case of TDS. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, he has a case of TDS. God damn it. Truth comes out. Truth comes out, I guess. He has a TDS. All right. Let's do this.
I just got a lot of questions about that. All right, for the story today, I want to focus on what we're getting out of Australia. So for the past month, man, Australia has been hit time and time again. It has not been great in Australia. So we had this story back in February. Tropical cyclone Mitchell intensified on Sunday. Port Hedland, as well as the nearby ports of Ashburton, Cape Preston West, Dampier, and Varanus Island closed on Saturday as Mitchell developed off the coast of Western Australia, resource-rich Pilbara region in the Pilbara ports. So I've actually talked to representatives of the Pilbara ports. While Port Hedland escaped damage, unfortunately, Dampier did not. There was severe damage in and around the port of Dampier. Port Hedland is an amazing port. Again, I had the opportunity to go to Port Hedland back in October. So this is the western coast here of Australia. I was down in Perth here, but I also went up here to Port Hedland. And Port Hedland is the largest port you've never heard of. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. It is a line of vessels coming out. You'll see them here, these green. These are all bulk carriers. It is just absolutely incredible. And when you come into the port, it is just a massive port that handles a ridiculous amount of vessels. Coal, iron, lithium, you name it. It is just a machine. I'm going to do a whole video on this. I've been meaning to do it. I haven't had an opportunity to do it, but it's just amazing. And then over here, you have the other ports of Dampier, and these are the ones that suffered the most significant damage. So port throughput right now is down in those ports. And as if that's not enough, we just had another cyclone. This one took out 3 Australian plants that provide 8% of the world's LNG. Karthatha, the onshore processing facility that feeds the Woodside Energy Group's Northwest Shelf export plant in Western Australia, had a production interruption due to Tropical Cyclone Narelle. Chevron Corp said one of the 3 production units at its Gorkon plant was stopped, as well as a platform that feeds its Wheatstone facility. Now, those disruptions come at a precious time in global LNG market after the closure of the Strait of Hormuz and the halting of the world's largest liquefaction plant in Qatar. So,
yes, plus they're having an oil crisis.
With the loss of production in Qatar due to damage to the plants, the shutting of the Strait of Hormuz, and now damage to Australia, we're seeing the world supply of liquefied natural gas decreasing. At the same time that oil is at a premium, this is hitting the energy market all across the board. And as if that is not enough, Australia is undergoing issues themselves with gas, petrol production and distribution. There are stories around Australia of petrol stations shutting down, shortages. It's all over the board here. I mentioned it the other day. I inadvertently said Western Australia is out of gas. That's not exactly true. Obviously, they do have gas, but the situation is getting critical. This story over at The Guardian, 7 charts that reveal how unprepared Australia was for the fuel crisis. Disruptions to Middle East oil shipments have rippled along the world's longest supply chain through Asia, and there's no knowing where the pressure will ease. All right, let's take a look at those 7 charts because I think they're really indicative of a problem that Australia is suffering right now that can be applied to almost any other nation on the planet, including the United States. So this chart talks about why Australia is overexposed to danger from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Notice on here lines that show the closing of refineries. Here's one in 2003 and 4, another one in 2013, another one in 2014, and then 2 refineries close in 2021. If you look at crude oil output, you'll see that Australia is having kind of a net reduction. There's this peak here, which I don't know why all of a sudden they had a peak in 2018. I apologize, I don't know enough about Australian oil productions, but the trend is definitely downward. Same time, when you look at refined oil products, it's on the downward. If you look at oil product consumption, however, it's on the rise. And what this means is Australia has to import vast quantities of refined product to meet their needs as crude oil output and refining is decreased. So where are the fuel oil imports for Australia coming from? Well, half of it comes from Singapore and South Korea. Two major ones make up over 50%. Add Malaysia, Taiwan, and India along with China. You get the majors here. The problem that's occurring right now, really important to understand, is that oil is reduced going to those places to begin with, which means their refining capacity is decreasing. As their refinery capacity decreases, they have to prioritize where that refined product goes. They're going to probably prioritize themselves first before exporting, which means that if Australia is dependent on crude, on
You think we're going to do that? Think we would prioritize ourselves first? Well, Trump told other countries to buy from us, so that I'm going to say no.
refined products from South Korea and Singapore, they may be at the tail end of that requirement to get it. Plus, Australia is really at the tail end of supplies anyway because of the global supply chain, the way it works. A lot of their products come out either through Singapore or from East Asia, largely China. So where does Australia get its oil from? Well, almost 40% comes from Malaysia, and then 21% comes from the United States. That's a long haul in. The rest from Vietnam, Brunei, and then...
All right. The national average for fuel is out. National average for fuel is out. We have only a 2-cent jump. We are at $5.40. Because remember, they're basing this on last week, not this week. Not this week. So prices shot from $85 a barrel up to $100 a barrel. We might be seeing a bigger jump next week. So we are at $5.40 a gallon national average for fuel. Only 2 cents. That's good. That's good because it was based, remember, and plus it dipped a little bit last week. Remember when it dipped a little bit last week? Fuel dipped a little bit. And then everybody's like, oh, see, it's coming down. Well, oh, see, it's gone up again. Remember if we do right here, this little dip last week, 5-day. And it dipped here. Well, it's back up. So
none of us won because we all put our bids in that were over.
You're over. So if you're over 540, you didn't win because we're going with Price is Right rules. I think that's the only rules to this game ever. I don't ever think there's any other rule.
So I lost my 1,600% discount on prescriptions.
You lost. The winner was going to get a 1,600% discount, 1,600% discount on all your prescriptions. I was going to make that happen by signing you up with Trump RX. But now I'm not going to sign you up, and you'll have to sign up yourself. But I still don't think that. But we are only up 2 cents because of that dip last week in fuel. It dropped down. Well, problem is, let's see what it goes next week if we stay above, if we put boots on the ground. Good news.
Others. So guess what? Again, if Malaysia's having an issue where they have to prioritize their oil, or if there's a demand for Malaysian crude oil out there, which there will be because of the downturn in oil coming out of the Persian Gulf, then this is going to become more expensive and it may be harder to obtain it. This chart talks about Middle East Gulf crude oil, where it goes by import. So how much Asia depends on Middle East oil? Well, you can see that mainland China gets 3.9 million barrels per day of it. India gets 2.3, Japan 2.1, South Korea 1.9, the rest of Asia gets 4.4, and then non-Asia gets 2.1. So, I mean, this oil is largely going to fund the major economies in Asia. And now here is the fuel spike. So real quick, a Australian dollar is running about 70 US cents right now to give you an idea. So when you look at a liter of diesel, and again, for Americans, about 4 liters make up a gallon. Not exactly, I know, but for rough estimate here, that's what you see. So you're going from under $2 a liter to almost $3 a liter. And again, times that by 4, and then...
$3 a liter, and there's approximately 4 liters in a gallon. So
times it by 0.7, you get the number here of what we're talking about. I mean, it is very expensive. When Americans scream and shout about their gas, go look at other countries, go look at Europe, go look at Australia, and you begin to understand why all of a sudden Americans have it a little bit easier with it. Not that $7 gas and diesel in California is easy by any means. And now we see the fuel bill soaring. So here you see the typical weekly household fuel bill that's based on 35 liters per week. You can see the cost was, under, 50 Australian dollars before the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Spikes up, you're bouncing between $60 and $70. Now you're well over 80 Australian dollars. So how many days of total oil and petroleum reserves do you have on hand? Well, if you're the Netherlands, you're good to go. You're good for a year and a half. If you're Denmark, you're good for a year. If you're Finland, well, almost good for a year. So the average is about 141 days. So, a little less than a third of a year is what the average. But Australia is sitting there at 49 days in reserves. So for Australia, you've got 3 things. You've got a short, medium, and long-term issue you have to be looking at. Short term, right off the bat, what happens during this, guaranteed every time, is panic. People panic buy. Everybody runs to the petrol station, fills up every can, every jug they have, and they start stockpiling. So that's got to get under control, number one. I mean, you're not running out of fuel. What happens all the time here is panic. I see it all the time. Live in North Carolina, hurricane comes in, shut down the Colonial Pipeline, everybody runs to the gas station, fills up everything they got, and then the gas stations run out. It's not that you're running out of gas, it's just you can't keep up with the distribution, and that's probably what's happening right now in Australia. Second, media. You've got to make sure that you're feeding the system. In other words, you've got to get commitments to deliver oil for your refineries and refined product to make up the difference. So that needs to be done. In the long term, you've got to be rethinking about energy and shipping national strategies. I'm a big proponent that countries need their own, at least core, domestic merchant marine so that they can haul cargo when they need it. They can prioritize it. Right now, getting a tanker on the commercial market is through the roof. We right now in the United States have waived the Jones Act for 60 days, but everybody's finding out, guess what? Those commercial tankers are really expensive right now to get it. It is the Jones Act tankers that are really the affordable ones now because they're in long term. When you've got a spot charter, go out in the open market, you're competing with everyone. And that's a problem right now in Australia, is they're going to be competing on the open market trying to get this. They also have got to relook at their refineries and offshore oil production. We're seeing this in California in the United States. California is cutting back on their refineries, slashing production, and guess what? Fuel costs in California are through the roof. I mean, that's what's going to happen. Countries need not just shipping policies, but not just energy policies, but national policies that link all these things together. I know people don't like me saying this because it's like free trade and free, I don't want the government doing things. I understand that, 100% understand that. However, that's not the way the world works. We are interlinked. We are all not self-sufficient. We are not self-able to produce our own fuel. Even the United States, which produces enough oil to sustain itself, can't. Why? Because we produce the wrong oil and we have the wrong refineries. So we've got...
Correct. Plus, we're still competing against other. Remember, the oil we produce is light, sweet oil. Okay, good for gas, good for aircraft, jet fuel, good for things like that. Even somewhat okay with diesel fuel. Heavy oil is what everybody else produces, and it's cheaper usually. But it's also good to make a lot of things, right? Because you can refine that all the way down to sweet oil and then down to gasoline and so on and so on. So we don't do the right oil to just be able to survive ourselves.
How to ship out light, sweet, fracking oil and bring in, heavy and sour crude oil for our refineries to work. Because guess what? We're in a global system and you got to be doing this. And that's what we're seeing. This is why the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. Because Australia is at the end of that global supply chain, this is a chart together by JP Morgan's commodity research. And just a quick note to JP Morgan's commodity research, what's your hatred with South America there? I'm pretty sure South America imports some oil here. I'm not exactly sure why you left it out, but I'm just saying you really should include it on your chart. But here's Australia. You can see that supply chain coming here out of Singapore, also connecting up to East Asia. And what we're seeing here is the bubble that is moving through the transportation system right around April 20th is when Australia is going to see the shortages begin to materialize in the arrival of oil. Right now, the shortages probably haven't hit yet. What you're seeing right now is the precursor to it. It's kind of the panic in front of it. When it does hit, if you're not prepared for it, that's what you got to get ready for. That's why you have to take measures now to prepare, because when it actually happens is not the time to react. You've got to be proactive, not reactive when it comes to this. But this is why the focus has got to be reopening the Strait of Hormuz and ending.
Correct. Yes. Midas Cam. Yes. So, and it's also cheaper for refineries to buy, right? We buy, and the reason is Canada, Canada's a captured market. It's hard for them to get their oil out to market. So we kind of have them in a captured market, right? So it makes their oil cheap for us to buy, but they have like heavy oil, like I can't remember what they call it, sand oil basically. It's heavy oil, but it's cheap. So our refineries can to get that, and that's what our refineries are mostly to do. But the problem is that our oil is more expensive because it's light, it's easier to refine, and it's just, it ain't good.
The conflict, whatever it takes to get the strait open back up again and get global energy and the economies going back again. War is horrific. I can sit here all day and tell you how horrific war is and everything, but this is a channel about global shipping. I don't make the issues about conflict and war here. Again, the Trump administration does not listen to me. I run a plucky YouTube channel. That's what I do and teach at the greatest college in the world, Campbell University, home of the Fighting Camels. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel.
That is what's going on in shipping. He's a PhD, MD, BA, whatever. He's all kinds of. He's a professor. He's very knowledgeable in regards to shipping. I definitely would follow him if I was you. Let me slow this down right here. We're going to talk a little bit about our debt.
$39 trillion. That's hard to even get your arms around. It's hard to imagine. I don't know if I could even.
Now, remember my tinfoil hat story.
Write that on paper.
Here, let me help you with that. It looks like this.
390000000000. A lot of zeros.
No, not getting it. Okay, all you younger people watching this video right now, maybe this will get your attention.
This is a huge tax on the younger generation, younger workers in the future generation. It's not much more complicated than that. There is a whole lot of spending we like to do, we want to do today, and we don't care for paying for it. And so we are saying to the next generation, which is inheriting a very complicated world where we see geopolitical risks, we see workforce disruption risks, we see all sorts of tensions and costs, and an economy that's growing much more slowly because of the demographics. And we've pre-promised all of these benefits to seniors through mandatory spending. We are giving all of this to them along with that $30 trillion in debt. So it's a huge tax on them at a time that they face tremendous risk.
You getting it now? Now, this video is a deep dive, so strap in. If you can't watch this whole video right now, I suggest you favorite it and then come back to it whenever you have a second, because you really need to be understanding what's going on here and how this is going to impact you and your kids and your future. Now, before you panic, you need to know that this is not a new problem. This is a problem that has been accumulating for decades. But in the last 20 years, it has accelerated. The fact is, it took about 200 years for the United States government to accumulate the first $1 trillion in debt. But now we're adding trillions of dollars to the debt a few times a year. This is what it looks like on a chart. Here you can see this is only through 2025, but as of 2005, just whoop, straight up debt. Now there is a wild card that has entered the chat as it relates to this debt. And that wild card is the war with Iran. So before I explain all of that, I want to thank my paid Facts HQ subscribers for voting for this story as the bonus this week. If you want to vote on next week's bonus story and get some other cool perks from me, make sure you follow these easy steps and you become a paid subscriber. My awesome paid Facts HQ subscribers are the reason why I'm able to make these videos for you every single day. Without them, this channel, all of these videos would disappear. So if you want to support my work, and of course only if you can, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. So let's start with some basic terminology. The deficit is what happens when the US government spends more money in a year than it brings in revenue. And when that happens, the government has to borrow money to make up the difference. The last time we did not have a deficit and instead had a surplus, meaning we brought in more revenue than we spent, was under President Bill Clinton in 1998, 99, 2000, and 2001. But since then, huge deficits. The national debt is all of the deficits combined along with the interest we have to pay on those deficits. Fun fact, right now the interest on our $39 trillion in debt is more than $1 trillion a year on just interest payments. Now I know you're going to ask, who do we owe all this debt to? And the answer is the vast majority of it, about 75%, is owed to us in the United States, to the Federal Reserve, to US investors, and to government funds. The rest of it is owed to foreign investors. The country holding the most US debt is Japan, but China is a close second. And in case it wasn't clear, carrying all this debt short-term triggers lots of problems for all of us. The Government Accountability Office says it brings in higher borrowing costs, making loans for cars and homes more expensive, and it triggers higher inflation. Now, politicians of both parties continually talk about this debt problem, yet they keep making it worse. If you take nothing else away from this video, I need you to remember two critical things. One, both Democrats and Republicans are contributing to this problem. And two, this debt and all the deficits we're incurring every year are not happening only because we're spending too much.
True. We got a bigger problem. And this is both Democrats and Republicans. I'm not going to say it's just one, to be honest. And remember, this is what Doge was supposed to save us from. We're supposed to cut this in half. We're supposed to use the $18 trillion of investment from other countries to knock this down, which I don't know why they would pay our bills. Either way.
It's true, of course, we do have a spending problem in this country, but politicians conveniently leave out the other side, which is we also have a revenue problem.
Let's think about this for a second. Let's say you're married and your significant other, like your wife, has a spending problem. You got a couple options there, right? You can stop spending. That's one way to stop your spending. Or there's another way that you can possibly get your spending under control in regards to your debt ratio from spending to what? How much money you bring in. So, if it was home, you could get another job, you could do things like that, and then you could get that under control. Well, the way the government basically pays down that debt is taxes. They take our taxes for this, right? No big deal. They either tax us, they tax the rich, they tax everything. Now, tariffs, which is just another tax. But they do with taxes. So the more we keep lowering and lowering and lowering taxes, it's great for us, I guess. But we're not stopping spending. So we're still spending like we're making $100,000 a year, when technically we're only making $50,000. That make sense?
The essence of our fiscal problem is thus neither obviously a revenue problem nor a spending problem. It is that Congress has long been unwilling to raise the resources necessary to pay for the institution's revealed spending preferences.
That's a fancy way of saying Congress keeps spending at unsustainable levels on what they think are priorities, but also they don't want to do what's necessary to raise the revenue to pay for all that spending. One of the biggest ways to raise revenue is to raise taxes, but they don't want to do that because
nobody wants higher taxes. No. We're all like, make America great again. We should do more. We should pay down the deficit. We should do that. Well, if you want us to pay down the deficit, we have to raise taxes. Don't do that. Okay, none of us want to pay taxes. I get it.
It's politically unpopular to raise taxes.
I mean, but if you think about it, what are your taxes? Your taxes do things like pay for the military. It's investment in your country. Well, I don't want to invest in my country. I only want to invest in myself. So I want lower taxes. Okay, fair enough.
And it's really politically unpopular to raise taxes on their big donors like big corporations and very rich people. So instead, Congress keeps buying stuff and putting it on the old theoretical government credit card. Now, the other option you will often hear from politicians is we can raise revenue by increasing the GDP.
The GDP. The GDP.
The GDP is the gross domestic product. The gross domestic product is the total value of all the goods and services produced within a country's borders in a specific period of time. So the theory behind this GDP option is to make the economic conditions so favorable to big business, like tax cuts and slashing regulations. So those big businesses will create more goods and services, which means consumers will be spending more to buy those goods and services, which means higher corporate profits, which means those companies can hire more people, which means more people will be working, and then the government can collect more taxes on all those things.
The problem is that we no longer, that doesn't work anymore. See, the problem is when you keep lowering taxes and you keep doing a whole bunch of stuff and you keep bringing in more automation. Well, automation, we don't tax robots. Weird, right?
Except, according to some experts, that's not really the way it's working anymore.
GDP growth no longer generates the revenue flow to the treasuries that it used to.
GDP growth no longer generates what we need to pay down the debt.
We had very low unemployment back in the early 2000s or in the 27-19 period, unemployment around 4%. We had 19.5% of GDP in revenue collection, 98 to 2000, with the unemployment rate around 4%. In 23-25, with the unemployment rate around 4%, actually a little lower, 3.9, we barely, we didn't even collect 17% of revenue. So I take your point on GDP growth.
Weird. So we're producing more, but we're taxing less, and we're bidding more robots and more AI, so we can produce better things, but we don't collect as much money on them. That's weird. That's weird.
But we have broken that linkage.
Okay, so we've now established that Congress is not controlling its spending because it's unpopular to cut programs. And they don't want to increase taxes because that's unpopular too. And the GDP isn't bringing in the money that it used to. So the question is, how much longer can we stay on this path with $39 trillion in debt and counting hanging over our heads?
Now, let's think about this for a second. If you want, I know this is math. Well, it's math in. I know it's math in, so I might lose a lot of you here, okay? If you were to limit how many people are here in the United States, right? We start getting rid of people. Well, those are people that, like it or not, used to pay into our taxes, right? We start deporting them people. And we lower taxes. And we keep spending. Do you think that the debt's going to go up or down? Because you have less people to tax, less taxes collected, and more, robots and shit working, and more spending going on. I'm thinking we're moving a little bit backwards. A little bit backwards.
Man, I'm still stuck on the $1,000 pen. I'm trying to figure that out.
Oh, the pen. The $1,000 pen. That's another one, too. Yeah. So, a lot less pens for all of us. You could have won a $1,000 pen if you would have got your fuel price right, just so you know.
The reality is, there's something protecting the United States of America. The United States is the world reserve currency. That means the US dollar, for decades, has been seen as widely accepted currency even outside of the United States. It's seen as stable currency, and it's used for trade. On top of that, you know how I say that oil is a global commodity? Well, oil is bought and sold globally in US dollars.
Good to know. Good to know. That means people want our dollars.
So there's always a demand for US dollars and for US debt. It's seen as a very safe investment. So having the $39 trillion in debt isn't collapsing the United States like it would any other country with remotely similar debt. Well, it's not collapsing yet. The issue we're now starting to see is maybe the world doesn't see the United States as a stable place anymore.
What? Wait a minute. This kind of goes into my conspiracy theory. So if we're not seen as a stable place anymore because of the chaos that maybe a president might bring, because, you know, he just does crazy things all the time. We're not really stable, because that's what actually is people invest in our country because we're stable. But we're not stable anymore. We're kind of chaotic, doing chaotic things, causing chaotic things to happen around the world in regards to energy and things like that. What? Wait a minute.
Safe place to park their money in that.
We're no longer a safe place to put their money. That would mean that foreign countries would not feel safe investing in the United States.
That debt. Maybe the world doesn't want to rely on the U.S. dollar anymore. Or maybe the world doesn't want to abide by what they see as the U.S.'s oversized influence on how the world operates. We've heard about the so-called de-dollarization efforts for years. In fact, you probably remember a couple of years ago when a bunch of countries got together to form the BRICS currency to try and challenge the U.S. dollar.
True.
So far, it hasn't worked. But now, with this war in the Middle East, some experts are raising some red flags, saying that places like Iran, which are huge oil exporters, are looking to sell their oil in other currencies besides the dollar in exchange for safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, that's weird.
In particular, they're looking to trade their oil in Chinese currency, which,
Chinese currency,
if it happens, could lead down a very slippery slope. And the longer this war drags on, some experts say, the bigger of a risk we're running to have all that happen. Now, there are also some other experts on the other side who say that all that's a load of bullshit, that the petrodollar and the U.S. dollar as a global currency are here to stay, and the U.S. dollar is so ingrained in the world's operation that it would be almost impossible to untangle it. And some are even going as far as to say it's possible that the U.S. dollar will come out stronger as a result of this war. Now, it's up to you to decide who you want to believe on that. But just the fact that this is being discussed is something that we need to all be paying attention to. But I can tell you what all the experts do agree on. In the meantime, this $39 trillion in debt is negatively impacting all of us Americans every single day. It will be detrimental to our children, and it is absolutely a liability for the United States. It makes us vulnerable. And if one day that de-dollarization effort does work, we are all going to be in very big trouble because that debt is going to come due.
Oh, for the love of God. All right, hang on. I think that's all I wanted to cover today, and I have to go back to work. So some of us have to try to move some of that open deck stuff that is screaming right now in price. But I do appreciate everybody checking in. I have to do this. I appreciate everybody. But if you do me a favor, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. That would be fantastic. I might have to pick a couple more mods here because I don't see. Actually, we're not. We're good. That being said, I'll talk to you guys later. I'm out.
Hear the echoes in the night sky, where stars and headlights entwine. Tales of diesel and determination, living life beyond the white line.
On a desert stretch where silence roars, tires hum a solemn tune. Every journey writes its saga in the glow of the highway moon.
Sage outcast, sports hats, where the big lows, big roads meet, talking miles, talking mental. Every rig, every route, every week, sage outcast. From the yard to the last white line. If it's trucking and bones, deep hustle. You tune into that state of mind. Keep the fire burning bright.
While the world fades into night, through the miles, through the time, we ride on in the endless climb.
Okay.
Sage, I'm sorry. Please don't record this.